2026. Yes, and we'll begin by starting a quick call to order. Do I have a motion to begin our regular meeting?
I move we begin our regular meeting, our June 18th meeting.
Thank you, Deb. Do I have a second?
I second that emotion. That emotion. Listen to me. Oh my God. Shame. Listening to too much music. I second that motion.
Thank you, Cindy. All right, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. All right, we have started our June 18th Gordon Burnell Governance Council regular meeting. And we'll start with a quick roll call. My name is Martha Hughes, and I am the Gordon Burnell Governance Council President. I'll pass it off to Beth and Deb.
Beth Dorado, Director, Gordon Burnell Charter School.
Deb DeTore, member of the board.
Tina
Chris
Martinez,
Cazone, principal
member.
at Gordon Burnell. Sorry.
Sorry, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. And then go ahead, Tina.
Tina Martinez, council member.
Yeah, and then Cindy.
Reba, minutes recorder.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so we got Erica. Thank you. And then Cindy.
Cindy Arndale, board member.
Great. All right. And I know that Jody might be joining us shortly, another board member. And our next motion is then to approve the agenda. So we can take a quick look at that for today. Thanks for running the documents, Beth. Deb, did you have something?
Yes, I'm not sure. Do we need to have under past business or something, the things we tabled last time, or did we table them for a future date that wouldn't be this meeting?
One of the items that we tabled is the approval of the bylaws, and so that's there under the action items.
But the other was Beth's salary.
And then Beth's salary and contract. And I have that document from Sammy, right? She sent that to both of us.
And then there's also action item B is the approval of my contract.
Okay. And so I can share that.
I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure where it belonged, whether it's past business or action item. I just wasn't sure where we needed to put Beth for.
Yeah, what do you think, Beth, in terms of like, should we also list those under past business to discuss and then go over to the action items, or
Just because it was on our last agenda, I wasn't sure what we needed to do with it.
My only thought is that section 5, which we don't use very often on the agenda, says past business discussion items. And so maybe I've historically been putting things like when y'all ask me a question that I want to remember to come back to, for kind of informational there. But considering that both of these things, although tabled last time, are now action items, they're in section 7 there. But I don't know if there are guidelines for how that's supposed to be done, or if we just get to do it by our preference. I don't really know.
And that was my question. Do we need to put it up here? See, that's I've got a little arrow down. Should that be up here or down here? And I don't have any clue about how whatever Robert's Rule of Order or any of those things say we're supposed to do. It's fine as long as it's fine. Because we are going to have to approve them, so that makes sense. They are action items.
Yeah, maybe then just for the future, I don't necessarily I think as long as it's in the action item, then that can be like discussed, but maybe that could be something that we could make note of for like future agendas that will just especially if they're tabled items that we'll just go ahead and put them under the past business as a way to remember to discuss them before we talk about the action items.
And maybe it has to be in both places. I don't know. Maybe we have to discuss it and then approve it. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I think a lot of times since some of those items are wrapped up into either the director's report or like board priorities, that might be another reason why we didn't think to like put them under, past business. But I think it helps make it more transparent, especially for people who are maybe taking a look at the agendas. So we'll keep that in mind for future agendas to just go ahead and, especially if it's an action item, that it's gonna fall somewhere on the agenda.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, so any other comments, questions? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve June 18th, 2026 Governance Council agenda?
I motion to approve June 18th, 2026 agenda. Board.
Thank you, Cindy.
Mhm.
Yep. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tina. And all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we have approved today's agenda, and then we had the minutes for both April and May in our board documents this month. Were there any edits or questions, Deb?
of course I do. When we looked
Huh.
at roll call, remember Beth wasn't here.
Mm-hmm.
I hope there's some way we can show that she did show up partly through the meeting because there's comments attributed to her.
Uh-huh. Mm.
That's the first point. And then, what else did I circle?
Which meeting
Yeah,
was it for? Was it May or April's?
that
May.
was May's.
May.
I think Deb, because she was in the roll call at the beginning, even though she stepped out for a section, do you think we should note where she stepped out and came back in?
No, because she doesn't even show up as ever being here. It's you, Cindy, Ben, Tina, me, Sammy,
Yeah.
Chris, and Erica.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So maybe we could just go ahead and add to the roll call, Beth. Thank you for seeing that detail. Okay.
My only other thing is, behind it. We said that under the bylaws, maybe I can find it. I can't. But we said that the reason that we changed the nominating committee will be changed from 3 to a minimum of 2 members. And then under that, it says the due date of nominating members was removed due to rolling enrollment. I don't think that had anything to do with the enrollment, did it? I mean, Erica was going as fast as she could, so this is not a criticism of that. But
Mhm.
I don't think we changed it because of our enrollment. Our nominating members wouldn't have anything to do with how many kids are enrolled.
Or maybe
It's under
board enrollment?
priorities.
Yeah, I think it's in reference to the fact that instead of having a specific date that we nominate people to join the board, it'll just be like a rolling nomination.
Just said we just removed it. I don't think we even need to justify why.
Okay.
You know, the due date of nominating members was removed.
Okay.
Got it.
That means enrollment in the board, but you don't enroll in the board.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So can we just get rid of due to rolling enrollment? Am I being real nitpicky, you guys? I just don't want it to reflect something that's not. Then it makes it into our board minutes, and it's why did we write that?
Yeah, yeah. No,
Good
thank you for those details.
Okay, those are my 2 things.
Thank you so much, Deb. Any other questions or edits for the minutes from April or May? All right. Do we have a motion to approve the board minutes for both April and May?
I move we approve the board minutes for both April and May.
Thank you, Deb. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tina. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. We have approved the board minutes for both the April and May meetings. And I know that once school gets back up and running, we'll reintroduce staff members. So it'll be a good time to restart that. And it doesn't look like we have any other outside guests here for comment. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Beth to start with the finance report.
Thank you. Sammy is traveling today and thought she might make it, but she is not here. Martha and I did take a look at the finance packet in the finance committee earlier today. And I mentioned this in my director's report as well. Just a reminder that a couple months ago, might have been April, the board, as is common at the end of the fiscal year, passed a blanket bar. And that gives Sammy the authority to process bars without board approval between that time and the end of the fiscal year. And then when we meet in July, she'll have a full breakdown list of all of the bars that she applied. And that really is necessary just because there is a tremendous amount of movement that needs to happen in the close out of the fiscal year. And if we had to wait until a board meeting to get approval to do those things, then we wouldn't be able to clean up the funds in the way that is necessary. And so there are no bars this month, but we look forward to next month getting a full detailed report from Sammy about all the things she's been up to in the meantime. And so just noting that, then there are in this report as well, the payroll and accounts payable vouchers. So there is an action item for that today, even though there's not our normal bars. I don't know how closely I can comment on many of these things, but I can certainly stand for questions if you had any that you came up when you were looking through the documents earlier in the week. We know certainly at the end of the year, when it comes to I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit, because some of these funds being over 100% again speaks to the need for Sammy to be able to move things around as we process the last invoices. And many of our funds also cover additional services or parts of people's salaries and benefits. And those are all estimates. And so as those jobs kind of wrap up, sometimes we'd rather be a little bit over than a little bit under, because then she can journal entry some of those funds to operational. And we fully expended the fund that we needed to fully expend. So we actually, when we're trying to set up encumbrances at the beginning, we do aim for that 101, 105% kind of on purpose. Because if you're even 5%, a couple $1,000s of unexpended funding is not how the funders want you to end the fiscal year. So we aim a little high, and then Sammy will go in and journal entry and do a bar and move things around. So that was one thing that came up. Also noticed just our cash kind of staying the same. The other things that popped out of me was we spent considerably less money this May compared to last May. But if you remember last May, we were trying to spend down money intentionally because there was all of the buzz about a potential cash balance sweep, which didn't happen, knock on some wood. But we did spend some money kind of last minute last year in a way that we typically don't plan for. Does anyone have any questions about Sammy's finance packet? Because I could certainly speak to them if you do.
Yeah, I guess maybe Beth, since we talked about idea B, kind of explaining
sure.
that to the board as to why that fund went over.
Yeah, interesting. Martha and I were talking about some of these funds that are over. Part of that is just about us over encumbering. But we actually got a letter that our Idea B funds were decreased by about a little over $8,000. I'm not quite sure what that is in percentage, but my brain wants to know. So I'm pulling out my calculator really quick. Almost a 9% discount or a decrease, right? If I'm doing my math correctly. Yes. And so this was not specific to our school. This was across the board. APS received less money than they were expecting, and all of our federal funds do flow through APS. And so their decrease was then spread out to their schools and charters that we get so our federal funds don't come to us, they go to APS, and then APS distributes them.
I wonder if it's because currently the special ed department has been moved. I can't remember what department he's moved it to, but it's no longer part of education.
I've not been paying as close of attention as I was at the beginning because it's so crazy. There was I was sharing with Martha that we did get a notice in the recently as well that the federal guidance for or the I already forgot what it was called, Martha. It's the universal guidance for federal funds. There's a big Deb knows what I'm talking about. There's this big binder that goes out periodically, and they just released a new version of that, and it's the some of the biggest changes that we've seen in a memory in terms of how federal funds are being managed. Um, Specifically, they can now terminate for convenience. Like
Hmm.
terminating for convenience is a clause that not terminating for cause or terminating
Hmm.
for, but just for convenience.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
specifically the language was around something like if the grant no longer aligns with national priorities or focus of the golden age. It's weirdness out there in the world, guys. And I don't know that these are connected. So I want to just be clear, right? I don't think necessarily that Idea B went down because of some termination by convenience clause. But what I did, where I am feeling is just not to have trust in federal funding and it being consistent.
Hmm.
Because even federal funding that's been awarded can be removed. And that's just weird. So, yeah,
Hmm.
talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, that makes it very difficult to budget.
The good news is a lot of our funds are not federal funds. I mean, the majority of the money of our revenue comes from state support, and not to say that we don't get federal funds. Our National School Food Lunch Program, the Title I that you see here, Idea B, Title II, Carl Perkins, that CSI. I mean, there is a significant number of federal funds that we utilize, but they're not our largest funds. And so, but it is unstable, right? Kind of predicting that they'll come in year to year.
Hmm.
Next year might not even have a department of ed, so who knows?
Yeah, there is I have heard from people at PED that there are states, New Mexico has not decided to do this at the moment, but there are other states. There's a recent opportunity to apply to pretty much remove yourself from underneath the federal um, Department of Education, like take this, it's the state's taking back the power. It's got another weird name, but I don't know. Again, New Mexico at this time is not opting into that, but some other states are opting in to take back the complete control of how they run education at the state level.
Oh. Mm. Mm.
Yeah. Um, some big changes that we'll keep an eye on, and thank you for like bringing that up, Deb, because it is something that pertains to the board and what we need to be mindful of, and it is hard to keep up with all the news. So if folks, have good insight or hear from, the school district as a whole or other news outlets about things that might affect our school and budget and the running of it, yeah, feel free to bring them to the session. Um, any other questions or comments about the budget for this month? Okay. Yeah, everything looked pretty straightforward when Beth and I went over it in the finance committee. Um, and we'll talk with Sammy next month, especially about how the funds were shifted with her blanket bar. Um, okay, so let's go down to the approval of accounts and payroll vouchers. Do I have a motion to approve the accounts and payroll vouchers?
I motion to approve accounts and payroll vouchers.
Thanks. And do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Tina. And all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have approved the accounts and payroll vouchers. And then I'll pass it back to Beth for the director's report.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm like, what did I write in my director's report? I'm gonna have to pull it up and see if I can get some reminder here. I am excited, and I did want to apologize. I love bringing a staff member to the board meeting, and the last couple of months I've just not. It's been time to submit the paperwork or do the meeting, and I'm like, oh, I didn't ask anybody. But I am very intentionally wanting to bring that back, and so I look forward to that. We did just real quickly with staff updates. We had a little bit of a shift up last week and this week. We thought we were fully staffed for next year. And then our instructional coach,
Yeah. Yeah.
newly coming in, she went home for the week to visit her family. She moved to Albuquerque about 18 months ago, and she went home for the first time. And her dad's health has taken a pretty bad turn for the worse, and she just couldn't leave again. She was like, "I am so sorry, but I'm going to have to stay." And she was visibly upset, and I was a little sad because I was really excited. But we
Yeah.
reached out to another great candidate. When we interviewed for the position, we liked two people very strongly. You know, we met Dina first, and we were like, "Man, she's it. She's the one, unless the next one is better." And then we met Jacob, and we're like, Jacob was really awesome. Very different, very, very different. And we decided to offer it to Dina. When Dina rescinded her acceptance, we called Jacob, and he was still interested. So
Really? Oh, good, good,
for
good.
us, he
That's
came in.
fantastic.
It is. It felt like, oh,
God, that's
I was like, I don't
fantastic.
want to get resumes again and interviews,
Yeah, right.
all
Well,
of that.
that's
Yeah, so
that's
Jacob
fortuitous. Yeah.
he's been a centralized district instructional coach for APS for several years. And APS is restructuring, so he had been promised a job back in the classroom, but he was super excited to take this with us instead. He's got a strong math background, which we really appreciate, and we're super excited. So a little falter of like, oh no,
Oh,
we
good, good,
are going to
good.
have to do some interviewing again, because we also, since I've written this director's report, have gotten our adult ed award letters, and it looks like we will be able to bring in one more adult ed member. But we're going to take our time. We don't need to start the year, although we would like to. You know, we did post for a support person out at MPC to help with adult ed, do a lot of the assessments and stuff, and so we're already collecting resumes, and then we'll interview for that when we get back. I talked about, excuse me, the blanket bar, and hopeful that our funding all kind of comes through. As always, Martha mentions it several times. I link in the Monday morning memos. There won't be anything new there in July, but that will stay there so that you can always kind of keep track of that. I know that in a previous meeting, there was just a question about our teacher mentorship program. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, and happy to say more if you have questions. One thing that we do a little bit differently, we're required to provide mentors for brand new teachers to teaching. But we actually assign and compensate a mentor for all new Gordon Burnell staff, even if they're experienced teachers from other spaces, just because our model is so non-traditional and does require a lot of navigation of different systems, and you know, being able to be fluent in our student information system, to understand how advisory works, to understand our pathways to graduation and our individualized learning plans. So we do a little bit differently than is required. And all new staff members get a mentor for the year, not just brand new teachers to the field. And so that feels really, really powerful. I
Do
did
you as oh, I'm sorry, excuse
jump
me.
in.
I just it seems like I mean that's great. It seems like that would be great for retention. Has that borne out as far as
I think so. I mean, in general, we retain. I mean, it always seems like I have staffing out updates, and for a
uh-huh,
small institution, sometimes I'm like, gosh, do we have a lot of turnover? But when we're compared to other schools, we really
uh-huh. Oh, that's good.
we
That's
retain
good.
staff
That's
fairly
good.
well. I think
That's
that
great.
we lose people for a couple of reasons. I think that just like we're not the best fit for all students, we're also
Mm-hmm.
the best fit for all staff. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
occasionally we get a staff member that within the first year or even less than that is just like, this is not what I signed
Mm-hmm.
up for. And
Mm-hmm.
well, it
Mm-hmm.
is kind
Mm-hmm.
of what you signed up for, but you're
Mm-hmm.
welcome to leave if you want.
Mm-hmm.
So we do
Mm-hmm.
lose some people pretty, like that. And then we've lost people again for family, reasons or
Uh-huh.
prioritizing other parts of their lives. And then we end up having some amazing staff members retire every year,
Uh-huh.
it seems. But in general, I think that our mobility rate among staff is lower than the average. I'd
That's
have to
nice. That's
verify
good.
that, but that's my assumption data is that
That's
we
good.
actually retain staff pretty well.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, just it speaks to the dash goals around getting all of the teachers kind of aligned in terms of
Mhm.
their expectations and the credit attainment for students and keeping data that, having all new teachers to the school have a mentor so that kind of people are getting the same information and sharing with each other, and that they don't feel like, oh, I'm having to do something different than I haven't done at a different school. And
Mm-hmm.
It certainly is a lot to take in.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah.
some people pick it up and some people are like, and then they end up sliding into it. And as I mentioned earlier, some are just like, never mind, because it's not the consistency of a regular classroom or, I mean, teaching is difficult anywhere, but it's certainly different here as well.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I don't know if we want to take a look at Kiana's community schools needs assessment. I think I had shared that with you earlier, but I really
You,
brought it back into, I have not shared it out with all staff yet because she was working on it right through the end of the year. And we did incorporate pieces of it into our restructuring data.
mm-hmm.
Leadership has looked at it, and we will start the year with Kiana on July 20th, kind of presenting some high level summary to staff about it. But it is quite interesting. I don't know if people.
I think I was able to take just a brief look at it. I thought it was very interesting.
Yeah, she's got. I mean, it's got some great stuff. I'm curious if in here this asset map is kind of cool, and I could dive into for a good chunk of time that she put together as well. Um, like if you click on it, look at all our community partners.
Yeah, that's what I saw. I thought that was
Good,
really
no?
strong. Oh, I've been doing that new board online training as far as community partnerships, that was one of the things that I had a question about. And I mean, your community partnerships are really strong.
Yeah.
They're right on.
So if you didn't get a chance to click through, even the links inside of her links are kind of, she's put a lot of work into this. Um, she's 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 broken down our partners into, oh gosh, she calls them strategic partners, active partners, and then community connections. And so, our strategic partners being that we're actually writing policy with or going after funding together. Our active partners are on our campus regularly, and then our community connections are also connected to our students and our staff in one way or another. So, yeah, she's put together, and then it goes into detail, all of our our really close partners. She goes in. Yeah, so she's calling that an asset map. And I think if you haven't had a chance to click on that, it's certainly worth exploring. But this is a pretty comprehensive document in terms of she spent many months in her first year with us doing surveys and focus groups and empathy interviews. She tried to hit most staff members and students in a variety of different settings. And I don't know if there's any particular questions you had about it, but it is an interesting document and something that, oh, that's not what I meant to do. Where is my document down here? Something that we're going to dive into.
For
With
restructuring,
yeah,
for
yes,
restructuring.
yes,
I mean, it's going to be a
Mhm.
strong tool for that, right?
Yep.
Yep.
For our restructuring and also as we really start our charter renewal. Remember this early fall will be charter renewal time. And so this needs assessment will really feed into how we write our application for charter renewal, which really will guide our next 5-year strategic plan is really what a charter renewal document is. So super dense in terms of the information there, and something that we'll continue to tap into over the next several months as we start the new school year and work on that charter renewal and continue with our restructuring. Absolutely. This is an action item, the DASH plan, and so I think I'll kind of save that one for last, so that I can end on it. I also linked our restructuring application, all 124 pages of it. And I don't know, Jody hasn't been able to join us yet, but Jody did join me last night at the APS board meeting, where APS reviewed and voted on 15 restructuring applications. 10 of their charter schools are in restructuring turnaround stage, and 5 of their traditional schools are in the same boat. Typically, when APS looks at something like this, they put it in one action item. And Mr. Doug Wine, who is replaced Joseph Escobedo, I don't know who Escobedo is, but Joseph Escobedo is replaced by Douglas Wine. And Dr. Blea, they usually sit up at the front. The board did not do that this time. They put each school as their own action item and called us up one by one. So that was interesting. The APS board did. It was obvious that members had read the plans, which I wasn't quite certain. That's a lot of plans to read, given they all are about 100 to 300 pages, depending on the school that submitted them. But it was interesting to see APS engage with all of us. A lot of their conversation it was interesting to me because it was about them wanting to understand how the charter schools are approaching some challenges that APS is also facing. So they were interested in understanding what are some of the strategies around chronic absenteeism, what are some of the strategies around engaging families that some schools have talked about being more successful with. They also drilled down and got a little heavy-handed with data in some spaces, and there was some squirming in the seats. They talked to me specifically about our plan for restructuring leadership, wanted to know specifically how we were addressing Yazi Martinez. I said we are 3% of our students don't belong to a Yazi Martinez subgroup. But it was generally supportive for the most part. There was some squirming. I mean, they were meaner. I don't know if that's the right term. They were harder on some schools than others. It appeared. It didn't seem consistent. They didn't ask some schools any questions, and others they really drilled about particular pieces of their application. Board member Bowman attended our graduation at MDC, and she spoke very highly of the school, of the mission, and said that since joining the APS board last January, her favorite day was the Metropolitan Center
Oh, good.
Gordon Burnell graduation. So a really,
That's really cool.
and Cynthia and Deb met her at that.
Yeah.
And so I was, grateful for her comments. But our restructuring application really doesn't need to be approved by the board. It needs to be approved by PED. And we've yet to hear anything from them, crickets. So we have received memos that our restructuring monies, which are about $250,000, we won't have budgetary authority over them until our application is approved. But I was gonna wait until I came back from my little vacation before I leaned in and said, what's going on, PED? What's your feedback?
Mhm.
But looking forward to seeing what they think. So
Beth, just a quick
yeah,
question. Is
jump in, Tina.
the money that's tied to that, you said, is not going to be approved until the application is that operational funding?
No, they have it under,
Mhm.
they're calling it CSI MRI funding, and it's falling under Title I.
Okay, okay,
So it's running through the Title I department. It's running through APS. It's
okay.
running through Title I.
But
Title I is federal monies. Interesting.
These aren't going to salaries or anything. This funding isn't funding salaries. Well, maybe the community school coordinator.
Yeah, for the FY27 application, we can in the first round, these are 3-year funding cycles, like they're 3-year oversight cycles. And in the first year, you can ask for 0.5 of a new employee if it's related. And then in the second year, that has to go down to 0.25. And in the third year, you can't. We did budget half of our instructional coach in this funding for this year. But we could cover that out of operational if we needed to.
Okay,
But we have it. We do have this monies associated with this restructuring application. It's half of our instructional coach. It is continuing our partnership with Ed Connective. Last year, Ed Connective did virtual coaching for all of our instructional staff. This year, they're moving away from that because we'll have our own instructional coach on campus doing those observation and feedback cycles that are meant to be really about personal growth. But we're going to continue working with Ed Connective, and they're going to lean in and do some heavy support around our PLCs, which are new and kind of fledgling in terms of how much they're leveraged as a really meaningful space. And so we're going to start the year. Each of our PLCs will actually be facilitated by a PLC coach. And then throughout the year, that facilitator will turn more into just a coach of an internal facilitator. Absolutely. A PLC is a professional learning community. I'm kind of actually excited about this. Let me see if I can pull this up. We will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 PLCs running next year. A leadership PLC, which will meet on Mondays, and will include myself, Chris Cazone, Chris Pauls, our special education coordinator, our community adult ed campus coordinator, our new instructional coach, our community school coordinator, and our new campus coordinator out at MDC, who will be supporting when Chris Cazone is not there. We have a humanities PLC, which is mostly social studies and English, although the special ed coordinator is also in that space, as well as a special ed teacher. We have a STEM PLC, which is math and science, an adult ed PLC, and a support staff PLC that's going to really be focused on piloting how our graduate profile can be more present in what we do with students and in elective credits that they earn and initiatives that we do around building community. And so we're going to start the year with a PLC facilitator external facilitator, right, from Ed Connective. And then by the end of the year, they will just be an observer, kind of slowly. So I'm super excited about that. And then those monies pay for some stipends to be on the DASH team because that work happens outside of contract hours. And that money, I think that's it. The instructional coach, the PLC facilitation, and stipends. I do want to say I think that's it. But yeah. Good question. We did not get a, a performance framework review from APS this year with the transition, but we need them for our renewal. And so those are those reds and greens and yellows that for those board members that have been around. APS, as our authorizer, does do site visits in the fall and in the spring. And we are evaluated based on the performance framework of our contract with the change in their leadership. We're being promised we will get one shortly. We did have special ed and finance site visits, so we're waiting on that. PED accreditation, very first year. This is kind of wrapping up. I've skimmed over it in the past, but we do have a couple of reds and yellows, so it's worth chatting about what that is and what's happening with it. This is new. The state the PED is accrediting, is offering accreditation to every school, not offering, requiring accreditation of every school every year on these components, these 10 components, which are broken up. The grayed out ones we don't apply to us at all. The green ones are good to go. And then I'll talk briefly about the yellows and the reds. The yellows are about our expenditures. And Sammy and I are really struggling with this. We've asked multiple times for a meeting with the Budget Bureau people who are in charge of this, but they're looking for our expenditures to align with some of the strategic requirements set forth by the state budget. So when they look at our SEG money, our money that we get, our per pupil funding, per student, we get a certain amount of money, but there are guidelines. We're supposed to be spending a certain amount of that money on special education, a certain amount of that money on at risk, a certain amount of that money on ELL, a certain amount of that money. It's very connected to Yazzie Martinez. We think we're there. We are not the only school who's concerned about yellows or reds in this section. But they don't, it's difficult to meet expectations that they're not very clear around. So school budgets come to us with above the line funding and below the line funding. Above the line funding is supposed to be able to be spent on whatever you need to spend it on. It's our operational budget. And below the line funding is things like Indian Ed funding or outdoor learning funding. And it very specifically has to be tied to initiatives that we've been granted the funding for. For the very first year, they're saying, well, above the line funding can be spent on whatever you want, except it has to fall in these categories. And so the first year they've done it, we're not alone in figuring it out. And we'll certainly work hard to turn that green next year. In terms of accountability data participation, there is a statute that 95% of our 11th graders have to test. And I have a very long line of documented communication because we struggle because our students matriculate through the grades throughout the year. And so when are they deciding which 11th graders have to test? I've been using the 120-day because it's right before those tests. So the snapshot in 120 days like February, and these tests happen in March and April. But I think they're using FAE full year accountability starting at 40-day. And by the time they test, they're not 11th graders anymore. They're 12th graders, and the 10th graders are 11th graders. I have written acknowledgement that this is problematic for their formula, but I'm red all the same. So that means I didn't test 95% of my 11th graders on the SAT and the NMSAR. But I'm having a hard time understanding which 95% of students they want me to test. So those conversations will continue.
Can't parents opt kids out of those tests?
No.
They used
Um, Beth, I'm wondering too, like, what if you tested both sophomores and juniors? So that way you're just catching, possible sophomores that would then become juniors during that time. I know you don't want to like over test kids, or would there be a strategy to kind of identify possible, students who you believe would be entering 11th grade?
I mean, that conversation, that's part of conversations that I've had with Dr. Lynn Vasquez, who runs the accountability and assessment department at PED. I called her a doctor to her face, and she said she wasn't a doctor. And I just rolled off my tongue again. I don't know why. I think she's incredibly smart, and but she's not a doctor. But Lynn Vasquez and I had that very similar conversation. I mean, she suggested that, and I kind of winced a little bit. My sophomores are required to take the PSAT because of our already because of our designation. Not all schools are, that's a requirement, but schools with designation it is. It's an incredibly hard thing for us to do as it is. I mean, we'll see. We're going to figure something out. She recognizes that it's problematic, and there it is, red on our accreditation. I don't think there'll be consequences for it, but we'll see what happens. And then the other one, those class loads, I'm in the process of. There is a waiver that I can apply for. We have all of our students enrolled in the same period because that makes it easiest for tracking individualized learning plans. But they're not all in the same class. And there is a waiver process, and I've engaged with it, and I'm hopeful that when it's approved, then that will turn green either for this year or for future years. The message has been this is the first year, and if you have a little bit of red, it's not a problem. This is about, alignment and new accountability measures. And we do have a little bit of red, so I hope they told the truth when they said it wouldn't be a problem. But we'll see. And I certainly have documentation about communication around all four of these areas, if we have to advocate for why they are the way that they are.
Beth, the red that has to do with enrollment, is that just like a synergy or a computer recording?
Class loads and class sizes, that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of our synergy.
Okay.
And so if I don't get the waiver, then the registrar and I will split up the classes. Do you know what I mean? In
Yeah.
some way that hopefully makes sense to staff.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
hope is that I don't need to, what we do now works because we can just look for students alphabetically because we treat them all as an individual, as
Right.
opposed to a first period math and a second period English. But if the waiver doesn't go, then I've already given her a heads up that we'll have to break things up differently somehow in synergy.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm. And then I don't know if they've updated this yet. I'm hopeful they have because I'm super proud of it. Oh, it does say 531. They've updated this since the last time I looked at it. Super excited. Look at us. So MSGs, we're GB, we're Gordon Burnell. These are the 26 state-funded adult basic ed programs across the state. You can click, this is a big dashboard. You can click all around it and see all kinds of things. MSGs are measurable skill gains. It's the percentage of adult ed students that have either shown a significant increase in their reading or math skills if they're at their foundational levels, or
Sweet.
students who have passed at least one subset of their high school equivalency is how they get an MSG. And green means you've met the state's goals. We are over 70 at this point percent because we've stopped enrolling and we're continuing to test. So we know we're going to get to 67, even higher. EFL gains, I think, will go up some as well. We don't post test as much. Many of our students are doing well because we're not pre and post testing them. We're alternatively placing them and then helping them pass the HSC subset. But the most important one is the MSP one. We want to be in green all across the board. But I'm super proud of the work our adult ed program is doing. And this will shift before the end of the fiscal year. We have new data going into it, but super excited about that as well.
Congrats, Beth. That's
That's,
great. I know that
that
it
is
was
really great.
here. Hmm.
It's really great.
Super excited about that. And then the last thing I'll talk about, because you do have to vote on it, is our DASH plan, or you have to approve it, acknowledge that you've reviewed it. I've shown this a couple times as we were going back and forth, so I think it's been linked in maybe May, maybe even in April, some drafts as well. It is fully approved now. Remembering that some of these things are not up to us. They are scripted, mandated by PED because of our designation again. But so our summative school-wide statements, we can't change. We have to say that we're working towards better SAT scores and New Mexico science scores. But then we get to create a benchmarks goal statement, which can be a little more internal. And that is that we want to see more core credits earned in ELA and math and science, because we do think that will lead to higher summative assessments as well. We're supposed to be raising our graduation, although I do have something to show you about that in a minute. I'm actually going to break away because I'm super proud about this. Graduation twins.
So just a point of clarification, so that when you say by 15%, et cetera, who is mandating that number?
We wrote that number.
Okay, that's my question. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
okay, got it.
This is a super cool little thing, because this is real data for every 100 students that enrolled as of the end of May 2026 in this school year. 56 of them were already in cohort 5 or above. So remember, our graduation rate is based on our 4-year graduation rate,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so when they say our graduation rate is 21%, and we have to get it to 67%, I go, okay, because if I graduated every single student then walked in the door, not one of them dropped out again, not one of them was so far behind they couldn't do it this year. If I graduated every single student that walked through my doors this year, my cap is 22%. Because 56 of them are already 19 or older, so they're already in cohort 5, 6, 7, or 8. And of the 44% that I could get credit for, we don't take anybody under 16, and it's a shared accountability model. And so if I were to graduate them, I would not get the first 16 snapshots when they were freshmen and sophomores somewhere else. I can't get them. I can't. The best I can get is half credit for them. The best.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the reality is I usually only get 1 or 2 snapshots out of them, not 16. They don't stay for 2 whole years, right?
Right.
So they say the only way I'm going to get out of designation is if I get to 67%, and I call BS because there's a theoretical ceiling that I'm at. My graduation rate is in the lower 20s, and that is the best it's going to get.
Yeah.
Unless I change my population and stop serving older students and lower lead credits, and that's not going to happen, right? And so I'm like, oh, look at what AI and I did. I'm so excited. But what we can say about really our graduation, right, is that we continuously graduate large percentages. This is the number of seniors we have. I've not added this year, right? This is and we graduated 83 people this year. That includes adult ed. So I haven't broken down, for these are only high school numbers on the screen. But last year not this year, but last year we graduated 60% of our seniors. 73% of our seniors the year before, 82 of every senior that enrolled, 82% the year before, 75, 53, and 49. We consistently graduate large percentages of our whole enrollment, right? So there's different perspectives on graduation. And it's not just what they're telling us. And so all of these charts were submitted with my restructuring plan. That's why they were created. But to go back to the dash, where is the dash? Is this the dash?
Those are really great.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, and
Angus,
I think that's something too that the board can easily latch on to, as a visual, like if we're ever sharing information with others about how the school is doing, it's sort of like when you see that flow through, it's a lot more concrete to be able to share
Yeah.
with people, like why our graduation rates aren't what, the state portrays them as.
Wow.
So again, this was the 56% for this year. My ceiling was 22. Last year it may have been a little bit different. And actually, last year we had a 24.5% graduation rate. So we're not doing all that bad. It's a 4-year graduation rate, right? Who are we graduating, quote unquote, on time? This year, I think it's going to go down because our population was a little bit older. And so, again, I don't think we graduated every single student that walked in the door. And if we did, my theoretical ceiling for SY26 was 22%. So as we see this fluctuate, it all depends on who walked in the door and who is even eligible to give us points. But our dash says that we're going to bring it up to 32% because to your point, Cynthia, you said, who said it's 15? We said it was 15, but we were also pressured to make those numbers aggressive in terms of growth.
Got it.
So it's a combination. How do we get to this 15%?
Yeah.
It's a combination of where we were at and also what our reviewer did have us at one point. She said, aim higher. So we did.
Okay.
I don't think we're going to get to 32% because I don't think it was possible this year. I think our ceiling was a low 20s based on who we served. So we'll see.
Yeah. And Beth, this is kind of tangential, but I had seen that the students are, according to their ILPs, required to make some credit gains over the summer as well. And I don't remember us talking about that previously, or I must have just kind of maybe missed it if it's been more of a practice. But how has that been working for students or?
I mean, I think it really depends on the student. We typically do encourage advisors to set up students with something to do over the summer. And there will be students that walk in on July 23rd. We're like, I did it. I'm gonna turn it in. Look, I did all these packets. Somebody grade them. And there will be students that are like, you gave me something? What? No, I don't remember that. And so it's not a time where it will affect what we're now calculating as their APR, but we do want to push them, right? To finish a packet, to get online, to do some work in the 5 weeks that we're away. And some will take advantage of that planning and others will. Youngsters. This document is long and I don't necessarily want to jump through the whole thing. But you do have it to look at it. Generally speaking, let me go back to my there are goals in the dash that fall into 3 buckets: instructional goals. They call them graduation goals. We think advisory is how we increase graduation. So I call them advisory goals. And then English language learner goals. Instructionally, we're really wanting to make sure that students are getting the right materials, that we're really differentiating from a student based on the course they're working on and their skill level. And we're a little worried that some teachers, it's a little too easy just to kind of give everybody the same thing, whether they're working on English 9 or working on English 11, whether they're in the 6th grade reading level or the 10th grade reading level. And we really want to focus in on the planning that instructional staff are doing and making sure that the right students are the getting the right materials. And then we're also going to focus on that second one is pretty much classroom management. You know, where we look like a study hall, quote unquote, a lot of the time because everyone is on their independent learning plan. And we want to get more into some really structured self-directed learning that staff are facilitating, and less like breakfast club,
Mhm.
which I don't think we have. But do you know what I mean? If we're going to talk
Mhm.
about the real,
Mhm.
and so we're really trying to like when an instructional coach or a leadership team member walks in, what are all students in the room taking advantage of the time, and are they engaged in student learning of some kind, even if it's not one-on-one or direct instruction in those study hall times? Are students being as productive as they can be, and can we as staff kind of work on that together? What are the strategies to make sure that they are taking advantage of the time and getting as much done as they can? Advisory goals, we're redoing MLSS. And so, you know, and we do have coaches from Ed Connect helping with that as well. I didn't talk about them when I went over the PLCs, but that's happening. So instead, MLSS is a multi-level system of support. And we meet every week to talk about students, but a lot of what we're doing right now is just kind of like, oh yeah, he's good. Or, oh yeah, this kid is not good. Not good, but this kid isn't producing. And it doesn't move much further along than that. And so we're really looking to have some protocols about how students are referred to MLSS. So we're not just going down the roster. He's good. He's good. No, I haven't seen that guy in a while. He's good. No, I haven't seen, like, we're moving away from that to have some protocols to how students are referred to MLSS, how interventions are chosen for that student. Are we really doing a root cause analysis of why that kiddo's not, or that young person is not doing well? And then are we tracking interventions well enough to see if they're being successful? And so we do a lot of that, but it's not systemized. And so we're really trying that's our goals in the dash are about that. And then in terms of ELL, we're going to focus on, sorry, I keep bringing that up. We're going to focus on academic language, making sure that different courses have vocabulary identified, that we're putting up word walls and we're giving students opportunities to use words. And so those are our three kind of dash goals, if you will. The plan itself breaks it down into action steps and assigns responsibility and all of those types of things. And it is an action item. And Chris Kazone told me today it's going to be a quick meeting, huh? There's not a lot on it. And I talked and talked and talked instead. But it is kind of wrapping up the year in terms of where did we end up with quite a few of these things. And I'm trying to find the agenda. There it is. Thanks, Martha and board.
Yeah, thank you, Beth, for sharing all of that. And I know that it was a lot of work, especially towards the end
Yeah,
of the school year. So I really appreciate you and your team. And I know that Beth, you and I have talked about finding a balance for the summer and taking some time for yourself. So I really hope
absolutely,
it works
absolutely.
out better. And um, yeah, any other questions or comments on the director's report from folks? All right. Um, so let's move, since we talked about the school year 27 dash, anything in particular to the dash that Beth shared or that you read through? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the school year 2027 dash?
I move we approve the school year 2027 dash.
Thank you, Deb. And a second?
I second.
Thank you, Cindy. And all in favor?
Aye.
I
All right, we have approved school year 2027 dash. And then in terms of the contract, we had all shared via email the month prior of Beth's salary increase. And so Sammy got that together and, in legalese, just kind of added on the salary increase. And it also shows the dates of when the contract begins, and then when it ends, as well as the responsibilities of Beth to uphold the contract, as well as, our role in the hiring and firing as well. I apologize that it didn't get sent to you earlier. I just forwarded it in an email during this meeting because I realized Sammy shared it with Beth and I last week, but it wasn't shared with all of our other documents on Monday. So if you wanted to take a quick look at that again, it's, the salary that we all discussed and agreed upon previously. So there's nothing really new there. But if you just wanted to take another look, are there any questions about the new contract for folks?
No, not for me. No.
Okay. All right, so let's move to action item B then. Do I have a motion to approve the new director's contract?
I motion to approve the new director's contract.
Thank you, Cindy. And do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Tina. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, we have approved the director's contract for this coming school year. And I did share out the edited bylaws just real quick. We had deleted some redundancies and kind of reordered a little bit, so I checked up on that. I also found another lettering issue kind of earlier in the document, so I fixed that. Under the kind of board duties, I found another redundancy that was talking about the hiring and firing of the director, and it was kind of down lower on the list, and it seemed a little bit more comprehensive than what was at the top. So that's just the other thing that I fixed up there. Any other questions or comments on the bylaws?
Thank you for doing that, Martha.
Yeah, for sure. All right. And again, it's something that we can continuously update whenever we need. The biggest thing was addressing, some of those concrete dates, making them more flexible, making sure that they were in alignment with how our board actually operates so that we're in a compliance.
Compliance, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So do I have a motion to approve the updated board bylaws?
I move that we approve the updated bylaws.
Thank you,
Board.
Deb. And a second?
I second.
Thank you, Tina. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. We have approved the updated board bylaws. That will be sent back out with a signature line because at the very end we'll have all the board members sign. So look for that in your email in the
Okay.
next week or so. All right, those were all of our action items. Real quick under board priorities is the succession plan. So let me pull up the documents that Kelly sent to me. And we can just kind of take a look. This is something that I'll kind of need to dive into some of our board documents to fill out. And we did identify that the nominating committee, which is Jody and Ben, could spend some time working on it. I haven't gotten together with them yet, but I just thought that I'd share with folks kind of what our plans are for thinking about recruiting and having a succession plan. A lot of this information we do already have, like we do have a one pager with a description and kind of roles for board members. I think this will be really helpful. This is what I need to kind of go back and dive into the documents because even for my own term, I can't remember like, oh, was I voted in October or November? So I'll look through those. We'll list them here. That way people know.
Martha, you're a lifetime member.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, and so that way people know what the 5-year terms are, and then they can determine for themselves, are they going to ask to do another 5 years, or even, are they going to ask to do another year? It can be flexible in that way. But we'll go ahead and fill that out. we had talked about together that we really did find that 7 is a great number in terms of, you can have a quorum of 4, and so I think that that gives us the flexibility of like 3 members could be gone, for example, like today, but we still have a quorum. And then you can have committees with more than 2 members. I know that sometimes that has been a little bit tricky of like makes for a really small committee at times if you can only have 2 members. So we want to continue sitting at 7. Jody and I are going to be talking with a potential board member that she's been reaching out with this summer. Um, if it seems like they're ready to come on, I would advocate for going ahead and voting them in, having an 8-person board for a few months
Yeah.
before I step away, just because we don't want the potential of losing folks and then having a smaller board. So, those are things we can talk about. Again, we'll always, committee work we'll share out with the group and get everyone's opinions on. Um, but a lot of the stuff we have worked on recently in terms of like bylaws, and that we're in compliance with statute as well. This is something that we had looked for when we have been recruiting. So it's always kind of in the back of our mind as we're recruiting folks, to kind of have a diverse representative board. Sometimes it's better than others. I think one of the things we've really talked about is like we'd like to have somebody who has been involved with the justice system, um, to be representative of the population. And we've talked about maybe previous students serving on the board. So that's something that is still on our radar. It's just sometimes it's hard to find people who have time and capacity to serve on the board in this way. So always, looking for that, keeping an eye and an ear out. So we'll fill in some of our recording priorities. This is a document that would be good to, have rolling updates of, just because you all know folks, and that's the best way to find people is, having personal connections that you reach out to. So here's an example of like, putting who we know and how we know them and how we're going to reach out to them. These are ideas for our process for interviewing them. We've kind of had our own little processes can give us some ideas for that. Again, onboarding, we have a folder. It can continue to get better. I know a lot of it is we don't want to use a lot of board members' time, but wanting to make sure they feel competent and welcomed when they're joining the board, I think should be a focus. Some of these things, they are in our documents, but maybe we need to figure out organization or make sure everybody knows how to find those documents quickly and easily in the future. Some of these things we have, it's just maybe we need to put them all together on a document in one place. I think our one pager mostly focuses on, a member's specific role. But having a sheet with student demographics or even, like the graduation sheet that Beth just showed us would be great to show potential new members.
Yeah.
And so all of these things are just some ideas for us to go through. So we'll continue working through that. I know that was kind of the last item on our list for goals, like for our board priorities for this year. So that'll get done by July's meeting, I'm sure, and we can kind of share out as well as, like I said, it's just a continuing process that we'll work on. For July's meeting, we'll start to think about making goals for next year. I know it feels like we just made goals, but I think that's in part because we had our strategic plan that kind of went through December. So we've been thinking about them a lot. The strategic plan should really help us kind of pick a few things out that then we can turn into goals for the year. So that was kind of our purpose with the strategic plan in that way. So I don't think it should take too long, but we'll be talking about those next meeting just so that people know what's coming up. So speaking of that next meeting, our meeting is July 16th. And any other future business that we should be thinking of from either Beth or other board members?
I'm leaving the building and I'm not coming back until July 13th today.
Good for you.
I
That's
can't
great.
promise I won't work, but I'm not going to come here.
Turn your damn phone off. Don't turn everything off. Just no access.
That's
Beth,
great, Beth.
when is staff back?
July 20th.
July 20th. Is there anything first day that, boots are on the ground that the board can help or volunteer with
Great
as far as
question.
welcoming staff back or,
That's
I
a
mean,
great
love
question.
that, Tina. Yeah,
I love that too.
we're looking at, we have 2 PD professional development days planned. July 20th, that Monday, all staff will be here at North Fourth. And then that Tuesday, MDC's staff is going to go to MDC, but they won't have students yet. They'll still have a day to kind of get settled in and get things going over there. So that first day on Monday, July the 20th, I think it would be lovely if there was some sort of recognition or acknowledgement. If anyone wanted to come in and say hello, we could. I typically start the morning with coffee and conversation is the first thing on the agenda, and that allows people to kind of come in slowly. So I'll say like from 8 to 8:30, it's coffee and conversation, and then we start at 8:30. I don't have an agenda, but that's pretty typical. We also often try to do something kind of teamsy, like right after lunch or something. And so if you have an idea or wanted to join us for a few minutes, either at the beginning of the day or the middle or the end or at any point really, I typically open a PO, a purchase order, so that I can bring some snacks. But we could certainly do something a little special there and say it's from the board. I love the idea, and anything that
I
you're
do too.
interested in, I'm certainly happy to collaborate with. And it will be after we meet again in July.
Right.
So if we could finalize a plan at the next board meeting, because the next board meeting will be the Thursday before that Monday. So I love it.
I do too. I think that's a great idea.
I
Really great idea.
I'm just thinking I have been accustomed to having a little goodie bag for staff, even if it's things like here's a new stapler because yours is broken, all the way to like here's a donut. But if there's an opportunity for us to do that, even as staff members walk in, I would love to be able to do that and be there for whatever capacity, running papers, taking things up and down the hall, whatever you need. I'd like to volunteer to be a part of that.
I think that's a wonderful idea, Tina. I'm up for it too. I just put it on my calendar, so I love that.
I love it. I think that's awesome. And if you guys want to think about what that could look like, I will as well, and we can finalize something at the next meeting. But that sounds great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank
Super
you.
smile on my face. That's lovely. Thank you, Tina.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Tina, because it also aligns with what we talked about with our strategic plan in terms of more board visibility and involvement.
Yeah.
And if we could, Beth, even trying to figure out just a quick like minute to let folks know like what is the board, what is our role, when do we meet?
Absolutely.
We are here. Here's our contact. If individuals need to reach out to us, it does not need to go through Beth. The meetings are open and recorded. So just having that kind of initial intro and then finding ways throughout the school year to also to students different if there's student and parent open houses, things like that. So
Love that. We can certainly look at a hybrid option as well. We've got, the technology to bring people in to the screen. So if some board members are able to come in person, but someone else wants to pop in, for a few minutes while we're doing that kind of introductions and things, we could also certainly make that a reality.
Cool.
Yeah. Love it.
No, I really appreciate that reminder because it's sort of like you have those good ideas and then the school year comes around, so making them come to fruition. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you all for your time, and I hope that you're enjoying summer, and we look forward to seeing you in July as well. Do I have a motion to adjourn today's June 18th Gordon Burnell Governance Council meeting at 5:23 p.m.?
I move to adjourn the meeting tonight.
Thank
I
you, Tina.
second.
Thank you, Cindy, for the second. And do I have all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have adjourned today's meeting at 5:23 p.m. Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Everybody, appreciate y'all.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.